Okay, hello. I hope you guys are doing great. I'm Eric Wen. Yesterday I released part 3 of my series, Helping You Rethink Your YouTube Niche. And one of the interesting things making these videos is that it has to, how do I say it? It's hard to decide what to include in the videos and what is better to include in a format more like this, a conversation. During my videos, I can't react to what you're saying. I can't react to your individual problems, your individual needs. I can't adjust what I'm saying if I hear your feedback. I can't slow down if what I'm saying isn't clear enough or if I'm saying it too fast. And so I figured, why not do more of what I've been doing behind the scenes during messaging or video chatting some of you guys. Why not try to discuss some of your unique, specific problems or some blind spots or maybe some areas where I didn't explain very well live, and see if we can all learn together a little bit better. Hey Michael, hey Alex, hey Rob, good to see you guys. Yeah, so any questions you have, feel free to leave them in the chat, and I would love to discuss further. Building your YouTube niche is something that is complicated. And again, we have been saying building your YouTube niche because that's sort of the vocabulary that they normally talk about on YouTube. But it's really about having vision with your YouTube channel, knowing exactly what it is, who it's for, how it can stand out, what ingredients you bring to the table. It's really about vision, and it's really about self-awareness. And I really believe that if you know yourself really well, and if you can package yourself in a way that's compelling and stands out on this platform, then you can make any impact you want in this world. You can make a huge impact using the internet these days. And so it takes time to figure out that clarity, figure out that vision, but it's so worth it. And all the creators that I really admire and respect, they've put in a lot of time, a lot of thought to think about what they offer, and think about how they're communicating in order to push themselves or be more helpful, stuff like that. And I really admire that. But I've always felt like the tools or the explanation of how to get there, there's like this gap there. Standing out on YouTube is so much more than keyword searching and making your thumbnails better. That stuff is great, but there's so much more that goes in it behind the scenes in terms of what you have to think about and the blind spots that we have just because we're normal people. Or a lot of us on YouTube, we don't have like a marketing or branding background. We're just normal people. And so how do you explain how to storytell and brand on YouTube in a way that makes sense for just your average creative person, or your average person who wants to just make an impact, or your average person who doesn't have the fancy equipment, all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of some of the what's behind this series that I've been making on YouTube. I want to help out because there's a lot of things that I've been discovering behind the scenes, or realizing, oh wait, why are people not talking about this more? Anyways, so let's pause. I want to hear what you guys have to say, and then if you guys have any questions, a specific question. So here's an example of some problems that are all a little bit different. So for instance, where is it? I had some notes somewhere. Oh, for instance, what are your unique problems? So are you looking for more views? Are you looking for more engagement? Are you looking for more growth? Are you happy with the content you're making or not happy? Are you feeling trapped by it? Is your audience split? Maybe you've been doing this for a long time, and some people like your gardening videos, and then other people like your, you know, how to grow on Twitch videos. like, is your channel not feeling very personal? Are you able to build that like personal connection, relatability on YouTube? Or are you unclear of what your YouTube channel is? This is where you get stuff where you're trying to explain your YouTube channel to a friend, or you ask your friend, like, how would you describe my YouTube channel if you had to? And you hear their response, and you're like, oh dear, like, maybe my channel is more confusing than I thought. So yeah. So think about those problems. What's the situation that you uniquely have? Or are there areas in my last series that have been confusing to you that you would love cleared up? Would love to talk about that more. Leeds asked, are you never satisfied with your videos? Do you always feel like you could do better? Yes, definitely. Every single time. Which is an interesting dilemma. I think that that's one of those skills that I think as a creator you have to get comfortable with that a lot. And no matter how much I pour into my videos, I always notice the mistakes with lighting and with the pacing, and they're always like really micro differences. I think over time though, I've shifted in terms of what I notice and what I get obsessed about. It's less about like an editing mistake or a lighting mistake, because I know I can tweak that and fix that with time, just get better in general with better equipment or better practice. The things that I've been really hard on myself with, it's usually about the structure and pacing of the videos, because I know that subconsciously affects a lot of things. It's really interesting for me when I see a video that is, let's say it's a 12-minute video, and then I have another 12-minute video, and both of them I poured so much work into fixing the story and making it compelling, as smooth as possible, flowing together as good as as good as possible, fixing the flow, the hooks of the video. But when you look at the watch time, when you look at the engagement, there's actually a very clear difference. Maybe one will have like, most people watch 5 minutes, and then with the other video, they'll have watched 6 minutes. And you can see where people sort of drop off, and I'm like, I tried my best in both cases, but this is giving me clues of what I can fix in the next 12-minute video, of how I can smooth this out more, make this even more engaging. Or, oh, here I told it with a story, and the watch time was longer, or this time I put more hooks here, here, and here. That's the type of stuff I've been getting really obsessed with lately, because I really believe in what I talk about in my videos. So now my job is to figure out how to present it in a way that's engaging and compelling for you for the longest amount of time possible. So that's the area where I've been really trying to dig deep and practice a lot, and where I'm never satisfied with my videos, but where I think over time they're gonna get better and better. Is there a way? Sorry, I'm really behind with these comments. I'll catch up in just a second. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if you have a moment, hit that like button. It's down below. You have to dig around a little bit. But yeah, it helps the algorithm and all that sort of stuff. Is there a way to go one direction then if you get a big change to a different niche? Yes, there totally is a way to shift and pivot on YouTube. This is where I really like the idea of a hierarchy. The YouTube niche hierarchy isn't just for like a fun catchphrase or something. It's much more about, if you know your clear values and you know sort of what you bring to the table and how it stacks up on top of each other, you can you can make a shift and then figure out how to make that clear and understandable that shift to your audience, figure out how to connect what you were doing before with what you were doing after. So for instance, let's say you had thoughtfulness and self-awareness like I did, or communication even, as some major building blocks on your channel. For me, I had thoughtfulness and self-awareness as pieces there all the time. And knowing that was really important for me, because now when I make this shift, it's still actually about thoughtfulness and self-awareness. I'm just pivoting it more towards communication more explicitly. And then from there, it's focused more towards creators. And then from there, it's communicated in this sort of like framework, DIY style, and all these sort of things. So depending on what jump you're making, you know, sometimes, as I said, it could be like, I was talking about gardening and now I'm talking about Twitch. Okay, that's a huge jump. But if you dig deep and you find what is connected between those two things in your personality, okay, I really like gardening, like going outside and pausing and reflecting on, you know, the beauty of the outside world and getting my hand, like, I really like going out there and like being hands-on and reflecting on things. Then you could go, okay, well now behind the scenes I've been learning a lot about Twitch and how to build these communities. I've always been curious about them before and wanted to explore them and see how I could engage in that way, but I haven't really known how to do that. But now I want to get hands-on. I want to test this out. I'm curious. I don't know. I think it's beautiful how our world is more connected than we think. You know, like again, I picked two things that were like so different. Usually it's way easier to draw them together, but basically if you can figure out the themes and layers and things, because you are one through line between those two things, because obviously you're pivoting between two things. So if you can figure out more of those layers, then it'll be easier for you to make that swap with your audience. And if you can make that connection for your audience, explain it to them so that they understand it. Oh, I see how this is a person who used to be interested in this thing, and now they're interested in this thing, and I can see how they're curious in the same way. They're still excited. They're still passionate. They used to be passionate about this, and now they're passionate about this. I can see how they connect. Maybe I'm willing to go on that journey with them. That can help you a lot. I can go in more detail with that in a little bit, but that would be my basic suggestion: is figure out some of those layers that are connected between the two different topics, and then it'll be easier for you to make that swap and explain that swap to your audience, and also be able to present that swap in a way that, present that pivot in your YouTube niche in a way that's still compelling or interesting or shows your discovery process on YouTube. Audrey mentioned in her latest video that you suggested her to start anew. Can you tell more about it? I don't want to necessarily say all the like. I don't know exactly how Audrey is feeling, but I think the question, what we have. I don't want to speak for Audrey, but I will say that we talk quite regularly, and one of the how do I describe this form? I think we all have these temptations to go, okay, I know that this, or to like project like what your audience wants, when in reality it might be something different. So for her, she was doing some content that she felt her audience wanted, and she could sense like, okay, I'm sort of in that, I can do that, you know, that sort of stuff. But she was always leaning to fitting in the mold of what her niche, that type of content that normally like pops off and explodes on YouTube. But she was and basically my some of the advice I was giving was like taking more time to listen, I guess, of what maybe there's some other options of how she can be herself and stand out on the platform, and how if some of these things that she's been trying hasn't been working, then maybe she needs to find some other options of how she can present herself in a more compelling way. I mean, Audrey is someone who's always super, super authentic, super, like, there's nothing fake about her. So it's not like she was pretending before. It's more like taking the time to find a unique format and style to you that fits your real story, what drives you, your passions, that sort of stuff. I don't think she wasn't giving herself as much room for that, like to share her real process and story. It was still there. It just wasn't like dialed up. And so the encouragement was like, hey, maybe you can start anew, like try new things to get yourself more on the path of being able to share your real story, your real process more authentically. I did not explain that correctly or well. I'm so sorry. Maybe I can come back to that in a little bit. I've been trying to get a deeper level of self-awareness, getting my pyramid in place, but at the moment it's just a list of creator, thoughtful journey, and storytelling. So yes, Alex, those are really broad right now. And it'll take time. For me, if you saw my latest video, I released part 3 of my series, Helping You Rethink Your YouTube Niche. I would probably start with that strategy that said about what, how, and for whom. So add those words to the ends of each layer. What are you a creator for? For whom? What are you thoughtful about? How are you, journey, how? Journey in terms of, exploring your own skills, learning new stuff, or are you like literally journeying in the world, traveling different things? Journey to be a more thoughtful, creative journey to build your business. Those things are different. And then storytelling, each of those things will reveal a lot of different stuff. So storytelling about what, storytelling how, and storytelling for whom. Who do you care about sharing your stories for? Is it for other people that are similar to you? Is it for people that are introverts, extroverts? Is it other creative people, or people who aren't creative, creative yet, or pursuing something creative, and you're trying to encourage them to do something more creative? Is it for people that are older than you or younger than you? Tacking on those questions will start to clarify these very broad categories that you have about yourself that are totally true values and passions that you have. You just need to go a little bit more specific. Ask yourself about what, for whom, how, after each of those, and you'll start noticing, oh, I really do always talk about this. How can I make that more obvious to my audience? Or how can I make that a more real, concrete part of my branding and messaging? For me, I realized that when I'm thoughtful, I'm always talking about people and understanding ourselves and our relationships and how we communicate and how we connect. And so that's where it got me to that second layer, self-awareness, where it took me asking those questions to realize that jump of, I'm not being thoughtful about just random stuff. I'm in my head thinking all the time, but it's usually very people related. How can I make that a more obvious part of my channel? Call that out a little bit more instead of it being super random what I'm going to be thoughtful about every single week. I'm going to... The only way to grow is to keep improving. Yes, I need to speed up, catch up. Main issue is finding a voice that suits myself so that I can grow and share content without being inauthentic. Yes, I totally get that. That's what this series is all about. This is what yeah, it's hard, and that's why I'm making this series is coming from a place of when I was doing YouTube before, I felt like people just said, okay, if you want to get views, if you want to make an impact, you got to just niche down. And I was like, okay, I want to niche down. I want to be more helpful. I want to be more specific, but I also don't want to trap myself. And it was such a complicated, weird journey figuring out how to be myself while also standing out on this platform and niching down. So this series is really coming from this place of, oh my gosh, that was so confusing. Like, is there a way that I can help other people avoid that same confusing process? And I think that this is universal, no matter if you're, what size channel you are. There's people who I think struggle with this. If they have 200 subscribers, if they have 20,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, it's interesting. There's confusion in this area at so many different levels. And I'm really happy that my weird analogies and interesting approach to it can help any of you guys. Hey Kevin, great to see you here. That's super awesome. Thank you guys everyone for being here. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and I will try my best to speed up and catch up to your comments. I'm so sorry. So if you have a unique problem, are you trying to grow more engagement? Are you trying to pivot your channel? Are you trying to, I don't know. All these problems are similar, but different. And it's not just about growing on YouTube. Figure out what your unique problem is, what that trickiness is for you, and leave it in the comments down below, and then maybe we can talk about it more. I saw Footless Joe was in the comments. She is so awesome. I have been watching her stuff the last couple weeks, and her content is a really interesting example where she knows herself and her strengths, how she communicates, and how she stands out. So she knows what she brings to the table so well, and she's so thoughtful about that, to the point where even though her stuff is all about, it's framed through the lens of her being an amputee. Even though that isn't an experience that I directly relate to, she makes that very compelling and very palatable for me. There's things that I've been reflecting on about life and things that are out of your control and connecting and relate, all this stuff. I find every single one of her videos super interesting. I'm drawn into it, the questions and curiosity that she puts on the table, even though I would not normally be the target audience for her channel. I think Footless Joe, her channel is so awesome, and is one of those channels that I've been learning from behind the scenes of. It shows you how if you communicate your story in a certain way, you can. The YouTube niche is not really about picking a one-word topic for your channel. It's much more about how you storytell on YouTube, and if you can do that in a compelling way. There's all these channels that I watch that I'm deeply connected to, that I don't have anything in common with them, that I would not be the target audience for them, but I'm drawn to them because they're able to present their story in a compelling and entertaining way. Joe, I'm so glad to hear that. Seriously, I was gonna message you. I didn't know if you saw my channel though. I've only seen a couple comments here and there, but seriously, there are some conversations that you had on your channel that helped me with my personal life, and I'm always amazed at how relatable or compelling or helpful your videos are, even though you're talking about things on the surface. What would I get from that? I have no idea, but I always click them and I always get something out of it. So study her channel. and you will find maybe some ideas about how you communicate on YouTube, how you can storytell on YouTube in a way that is universally compelling. Yeah. I could go on a endless rant about that. Yeah. I've been thinking about doing a series like these small snapshot breakdowns that are less in depth, a little bit more informal, but about it. Like when I do breakdowns of these big YouTubers on this platform, yeah, some of that is to grow, but also it's usually because they're doing something unique. And recently I've also been noticing that there's a lot of YouTubers that people don't know, but they are doing something really unique. And I think it would be cool to do a more informal breakdown of all sorts of YouTubers. I mean, it's not a requirement for you to be like this giant YouTuber to do a breakdown video. I think that there's these channels that are hidden gold mines. Like, this is an example of how they're using this storytelling technique. And can you see how compelling that is? Even though they've only got, 100 subscribers, do you see what they're doing there? Maybe we can all learn from this. I think it'd be cool to do more of those videos. Okay, I'm just gonna read a bunch of the comments and then we'll try to do a recap. Okay, when you build a niche about YouTube, a YouTube channel, it's so broad that it's boring and not as interesting. When you build a niche about a YouTube channel, it's so broad that it's boring and not as interesting. Whereas hobbies are more interesting about growing a YouTube channel. It's the how that gets it's the how that gets tricky. Joe, I'm really glad that you're enjoying the series. That's super awesome. James from Brighton, that's super awesome. Good to see you here. I've been really enjoying our messages back and forth. Can I put the Dutch language and Dutch people in my pyramid? I'm afraid to commit to the language because it is also limiting. That is a great question. We'll come back to that. I'm super glad the advice has been helpful. This series is very good, by the way. I love how you're digging deep with the niche problem. Thank you so much, Andrew. I am glad it could help. I'm trying to pivot some of this stuff is getting flagged because it's talking about growing on YouTube. I'm so sorry. I need to approve these comments. I'm trying to pivot my channel in an attempt to grow. My problem is how to communicate the same thing beyond talking head style filming, experimenting at the moment and excited with the possibilities. I'm not there yet, but that's the journey. So you're moving away from talking head style filming and you're figuring out how. I think that that's a really good, I'm really happy that you are open to that shift with your channel. That's the type of thinking and experimenting I think is really powerful on this platform, where instead of trapping yourself in, okay, I make these types of videos because this is what pops on YouTube, or this is how, this is the only way I can stand out and connect with my audience, finding new ways of saying, okay, I'm still the same person, I'm still interesting, I'm still curious about the same things, but how is this different if I am talking outside or talking to a different person? Having that sort of creativity or willingness to step out is super, super, those are the types of decisions I think that make a huge difference. Much more even than, picking a YouTube niche. I've been titling the videos like that, but it's about so much more than just that. For me, I had to actually pivot towards talking head style videos. I used to do videos where I was vlogging outside, doing it Casey Neistat style. I would set a camera down and then like walk to it, say some motivational advice, and then walk into a different room and do that. And that, because that's the vloggers that I was watching. That's how I saw people present motivational content. I was like, I'm an introvert. I don't know if people will listen to me unless I use my editing skills, use my filmmaking skills to storytell. But what's really interesting is the more and more I've done YouTube, the more I've realized, what I really like exchanging has nothing to do with where I'm at physically. Like it's really we're talking about ideas, not locations I'm at, and so maybe I should lean into that, not worry as much about that type of editing, and worry more about how I can be compelling sitting in one place. And being open to shifts like that has been huge for me. And there's a lot of experiments behind the scenes that are going to happen in February and March that I'm really excited, and I think they're going to unlock a lot of cool things with this channel. Every time I make a video where I don't show my face or speak, I get a lot of views, and that's the most fun I have. But at the same time, by not being in my videos, my fans don't know me. How to create a successful channel without being on camera? I feel people like my work but don't know who I am at all. Ooh, that is such a good question. Joe, I'm so happy that these things have been helpful for you. That makes me really happy. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about two things. So one would be should I basically have Dutch be a huge part of my YouTube channel, because can I put the Dutch language and Dutch people in my pyramid? I'm afraid to commit to the language because it's also limiting. I've talked with my friend Diego about this with Spanish a lot, and I think that for you, it's really think about who your videos are for, and that idea that I said before about in part 3 of my series, like what is fueling your passion? For a while when I was talking with Diego, it seemed, okay, maybe the right move for you is to shift it to English so that you can hit a more broad or a different audience. But the more he thought about what drives him, what compels him, he really realized that his friends in Mexico, so he has a really interesting story where he came from Mexico and came here, started a YouTube channel, started a videography business, even though he didn't have video filmmaking experience. And he's, in the last 2 years, he's made it work, where now he's doing that full time. He's doing videography full time, even though 2 years ago he didn't have a camera, he didn't have filmmaking experience, all this stuff, but now he's getting paid full time to do that. And so he was like, it's really meaningful to me to show my friends or other people like me 2 years ago in Mexico all the opportunities that are possible, how the stuff that you feel is out of reach on YouTube, or like the opportunities or how you build yourself as an entrepreneur or get access to stuff, it's actually more possible than you think. And I really am fueled by that. I really want to give them the perspective, the access to it can be accessible to you. And so for him, it was really important for him to keep his videos in Spanish. It made more sense for him to keep his videos in Spanish because he realized that his passion for giving access and showing the opportunities to the Hispanic audience was super important to him. I think I would dig if you're worrying about whether or not you should include Dutch. I don't know your unique story. Are you, what languages do you speak? What languages do you naturally speak? How do you have experience speaking Dutch? But I would think about the why of the Dutch component of it. What's interesting about that? What like flavoring does that add to your YouTube channel? What access are you giving those people? How meaningful is that element to you? And then, put it in your priority list. Okay, is this like, wow, this is really connected with a core belief? Or is it more like, okay, I've been doing videos in Dutch, I don't want to lose that audience, I'm scared to try something different? Then those approaches will be different. Really ask yourself what that Dutch component brings to the table. Break it apart into all these little ingredients, and you'll start to see, okay, maybe I should go more towards it or away from it. Hope that was helpful. If not, you can ask more questions. Would love to clarify anything that you've got. I'm gonna read the comments and then we'll cycle back. When you don't have any niche decisions officially made, in your opinion, should you be pushing for quality or quantity? Definitely quantity. Again, everyone says that quantity is better than quality. So putting out more stuff, you experiment, you iterate more, and so you'll figure out more ingredients basically for your YouTube smoothie, more skills you have, more environments that you don't like highlighting, and other topics that you do. When you do quantity, though, it's really important for you to be thoughtful about it. What are you bringing to the table when you're iterating? I see all these people doing like, oh, I've made a vlog, I've made 500 vlogs, and I still am in the same place that I was before. Okay, well, maybe you should pay more attention to how is this vlog from day 398 different from this vlog from 402? What are you trying that's different? Trying out more. Okay, let's try a sit-down video. Let's talk about cameras here for a couple videos. Do I like that? Oh, I leaned more towards analogies. Oh, I lean more towards frameworks. I lean more towards talking about all the specs and details and breaking that apart, or making specs and details relevant to an audience that doesn't know anything about cameras. Start noticing what you're bringing to the table in different contexts in those 500 vlogs, what ingredients you're working with, playing with, and then you can start like pulling together, oh, when I do this a lot, I feel like 75% in my zone, and when I do this stuff, I'm 45% in the zone. Maybe I should do more of that 75% and then slowly beef it up to 80%, 90% with these small tweaks, substituting different pieces out. There's a lot of people I see who they're like, I made a lot of things. I've made 500 videos. But if you look at what the 500 videos that they made, they're all the same. There's not enough new experiments in the 500 videos. So the caveat is quantity, but like a thoughtful quantity, or you behind the scenes when you're creating it, make sure you're being thoughtful about the differences that you're making and the things that you're trying. Do you think being an introvert has actually impacted your storytelling negatively than an extrovert? No, not at all. I think the introvert angle is actually very, very powerful. And I think that it's really interesting. I used to view being an introvert as a weakness, as like I was sort of crippled or not. I'm going to use some strong language here, but I really felt like it was a disservice to me. Like it made me less compelling, less engaging, all this sort of stuff. I was not connected to social activities or the world or whatever in the same exact way as most of my peers. But the more that you dig deep on what being an introvert means, or the interesting things that you might notice more as an introvert, you start to notice that every type of person has superpowers, has things that they bring to the table, or a unique tone or observations, perspectives that the other side of the table doesn't have. And so the more that you can pick apart those superpowers, those ingredients, and highlight them, show them off to your audience, you can really turn any situation, any weakness, any story, like you can really use that to your benefit. And usually there's a beautiful thing about everything that we bring to the table. And being an introvert is definitely, and by the way, being an introvert is definitely not a bad thing or a weakness. In the past 2 years, one of the biggest growing experiences for me has been embracing it more and realizing that being an introvert isn't about being socially awkward or being less socially engaged, all that stuff. It's much more about how it's just a different version of living your life, different version of thinking. And there's some cool elements to that. I'm like holding myself back from a rant about personality tests because I'm really into personality tests, more specifically Myers-Briggs and cognitive function. So I'm like holding back the rant because I know I could just like go endlessly talking about what an introvert actually is. So I'm gonna stop myself there. My F1 channel has blown up in an insane way over this last month. 122 subscribers to over 11,000. Your tips, advice, and perspective has been incredibly valuable to me. Thank you. That's super awesome. That's so cool. And I love that you are finding value in the videos and being thoughtful about your content, even though you're seeing this explosion with your views. I think a lot of people go, oh, I'm seeing a huge explosion with my views. I'm set. I'm good. But a lot of times that can actually lead to blind spots because you're not ready for it, or you're getting a bunch of views, but you don't really know exactly why. And so I think that anyone at 200 subscribers, 50 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, all of us have ways that we can be more thoughtful about our content, or sort of tweak things, leverage them to be more compelling storytellers. I want to get back to that guy's question about how to create a successful channel without being on camera. That's a really interesting question. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking about that. But I need to speed through. Hey everyone, good seeing you guys here. I'm reading those comments. Jason, Ethan, all these people. Ivan, it's so awesome seeing you guys here. Thank you guys so much. Hit that like button if you haven't already. It helps with the algorithm. And if there's anything I'm doing weird with the lighting, or anything I need to tweak, or the sound's messed up, let me know. I'm doing videos in Dutch and then use subtitles, but sometimes I do them in English. I think some viewers are lazy to read subtitles. That's a really interesting point. Again, it's a trade-off, right? Everything's got a trade-off. I found when I do my videos in Spanish sometimes, I'm always like, oh, it's just subtitles. I'm used to reading subtitles. But then when I'm actually editing the video, I'm like, man, every single time I put subtitles in these clips, it's distracting the viewer from what is actually going on. They're spending their time looking at the bottom of the screen reading instead of noticing the like B-roll that's in there. And so it's definitely a trade-off for sure. Andrew, I'm so glad that was helpful for you. Yeah, message me if you have any follow-up questions. I'm also probably going to be live streaming on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. PST. So if you have any questions, maybe you can think about it for a couple days and then come back and bring it then, and maybe you'll have more clarity. I would start a new channel if you wanted to change languages. You can also always promote back and forth between channels via end screens, cards, links in the description, and comments. Yes, that's a super cool option. And again, it takes a lot of work to do that, but depending on where you're at in your process, that could be the best option for sure. I know Armando has done that with his channel, where he has an English version and a Spanish version, and I actually subscribe to just the Spanish version because I think that it's I think it's really it's fun for me to practice my Spanish. But yeah, it's interesting how he separated out those two things. How you're drained and recharged. Yes, that's ties to the introvert thing. No questions, more of a comment. I feel like your channel has turned into another how to grow on YouTube YouTuber. I'm so glad you brought that up. I think right now I am talking about how to grow on YouTube, but it's coming from, I see how it's similar to like the content bug and all these different channels talking about how to grow and make money on YouTube. But for me, it's coming from a very different, around the corner plan of diving deep on the communication side, the storytelling side. But the more I've the more I've gone real deep into those topics, the more I've realized, if you don't have your foundation right, if you don't know how if you're not thoughtful yet about how you're communicating and what you bring to the table, then all of these tweaks, these examples don't work. So I've been investing a lot in this series that's for especially small YouTubers to think a little differently about how they're communicating on this platform. But for me, it's not. I don't want to be. I don't. I'm not going to make this channel something like the Content Bug, where it's all about growing on YouTube. For me, it's coming from a place of really those pillars: thoughtfulness, self-awareness, communication, and for creators. And I realized that in order for me to hit those points home and build that channel in the future, I need to be able to lay some of this foundation now, like with the framework of like growing on YouTube niche, that sort of stuff. But it's really laying a foundation for this other future content. And it's, for me, the part that I'm most interested in is not about getting a bunch of views and subscribers, because I think that there's lots of other channels that talk about that. For me, the thing that's most compelling is, how do you think about how you're communicating? How do you think about how you're storytelling? And frankly, I think that no one is really talking about that on this platform enough, because I think that that's usually the thing that makes the difference between you and that other channel. You're a very good storyteller and writer on your channel. You're able to take these topics that people have no idea about before, and talk about them in a way that's very compelling. You're able to point out to the audience why this is interesting to you, and I think that I really admire your skill doing that, Ethan. If there's anything to I can clarify. I see that there's some more follow-up comments. Would love to read them. I'm so bad at keeping up with the chat. I have 200K subs on my channel. People love my content but don't know who I am. At the same time, I don't like to be on camera. That's a very hard situation. And then going to your future comment, I know bigger photography channel YouTubers are more present in their videos to connect with their audience, and I feel I miss this part. That's good that you know that you don't like to be on camera. I think that there's ways, though, that you can share a personal connection with your audience. There's like a Domino channel that I watch where they're not really in front of the camera very much, but I still feel connected to them. There's drawing channels that I've felt connected to, even though they're barely on camera. I think it's really about showing your curiosity, your passion, your discovery process on YouTube. If you can boil down that secret ingredient, that what do you like discovering? What do you like? What's your discovery process? Why are you making those types of videos? And if the more that you can share that story of like, the reason I'm drawing in all of these videos is because of this, and I'm still learning in these ways how to be a better artist. And, even though you see that I'm really good at drawing these things, I'm always curious, like, can I make these drawings more compelling? Or there's this technique here that I'm doing with my pencil that I'm just not good at yet, but I know that it makes a huge difference. So that's something that I'm learning and trying behind the scenes. And the more that you can make that clear for your audience, what your discovery process is, you can make your content more personal and entertaining at, like, no matter if you're on camera or not. It's more like, are you communicating your struggle, your story, in a human way, or are you presenting yourself as an expert who already knows it all? There's a very big difference. Adding in your discovery process, what you're curious about, what you don't know yet, is a really powerful way. I would recommend making your videos feel more personal. And again, if you fake that discovery process, it's not going to work. It's more figure out what your real, genuine discovery process that's already there is. And the more that you can boil that down, the more that you can make your channel exciting, or more engaged to your audience. Because then they start noticing, oh, okay, on the surface I'm seeing, I'm just I'm making up that you're a drawing channel. You're not a drawing channel. I'm sorry, but the example is like, on the surface they say, okay, this person draws this, draws this, draws this, draws this every week, every couple of days on this channel. But behind the scenes, because he's clued me into his story, into his discovery process, I can see how, wow, his technique is building. Wow, his this thing that he mentioned 3 months ago he was struggling with, now he's good at. Oh, he's bringing in a new struggle. That's cool. Like, one example I like giving is how like Mr. Beast, there's like this electric feeling I have when I watch his channel, and a lot of it is because on the surface, yes, he's doing these crazy challenges, he's giving away tons of money, all this sort of stuff, but behind the scenes, you know that Jimmy from Mr. Beast is obsessed with how he can push the envelope more, how he can fulfill those dreams of like building a homeless shelter, making a huge impact, being the top YouTuber on this platform. He's going so extreme with how he can be the best, and how he can make a really meaningful impact, and you feel that in his videos. He's not explicitly saying, hey guys, like I want to be the top YouTuber someday, so this is what I'm doing. Like, no. But you feel it behind the scenes, and you can see that even though he's one of the best on this platform right now, you can see he's still learning. And I think that growing process is like this secret, very hidden ingredient on his channel. Because he's framing himself like he's still on the come up. That is something that's very magical about his channel, where he's always pushing. He feels sort of like an underdog in a weird way, still. And so the ways that you can work that into your content, sort of an underdog story, that can add a lot to your channel. I talked about it in the MKBHD video, I think, where it's like people really like watching, people love watching people who are passionate about what they do, but they love watching people that like are on the rise, that are growing. And that is very universally compelling. If you can see that journey, that discovery process in their channel, the fingerprints of it everywhere, you'd be surprised. There's these like the randomest channels that I'm super connected to, but it's because I'm just addicted to seeing the next episode basically in their discovery process. Why do some YouTubers make every thumbnail almost exactly the same? To me, it's boring. It looks like just the same blob on their channel. That's a good point. I think that there's certain techniques that just are proven to work better. Showing your head, like face bigger on the screen, and it just stands out. Like, it literally, you can see it stand out on the homepage more. But I do agree that we all have to watch out for just looking like everyone else. And so the more that we can experiment, take those same elements of, okay, I need to make my face expressive or something in my thumbnails, or I need to simplify my thumbnail so that it's, not super cluttered and confusing. If you can take those same principles but try something different with it, that is super awesome. And I think will help you stand out. And some of the things that I've been trying, doing more top-down shots, or where I was like popping out of the thumbnail, those are some ideas that I've been having of like, how can I not just make it where, I'm getting super close to the camera and going like this. I like those thumbnails, but I know that long term I'm going to be doing YouTube for a long time. I can't get stuck in that thinking. Okay, I'm going to fast forward. Q Makes It Happen is here. So cool. One of my favorite YouTubers right now. And also really cool guy. Q Makes It Happen. You guys should check him out. I promise. And talk about someone who has a really interesting discovery process and story on his channel. Watch one of his videos and you'll feel the excitement of his journey, and you'll want to go on it with him. Q Makes It Happen. Q Makes It Happen. Check it out. Honestly, whenever I think about the videos I'm making, I always want to provide as much value as I possibly can. And if I think about a video idea that doesn't provide value, then I'm not going to do it. I have so many thoughts about this value topic, especially depending on how much impact how much impact you see those valuable videos happening, or you see those valuable videos giving, because I really think another area that we don't talk about on this platform enough is, am I giving the right value to the right people? I talk about that example of like giving $20 to your parents versus giving $20 to your to a homeless person. The value exchange there is different. Like, objectively, yes, it's $20. It's the same value, but it'll have a completely different effect or dynamic when I'm giving it to my parents versus giving it to someone really in need. So figuring out whether the value you're giving is the right type of value, I think, is a conversation that doesn't happen enough on this platform. Have I considered taking clips from this live stream and making them their own separate videos? That way you can have a lot of content you can crank out. I have not thought about that in terms of live streaming, because I think this is the first type of these videos that I've done it specifically this way. But you're giving me some ideas. I have some clips I wanted to pull from some of my consulting calls behind the scenes that I thought would be entertaining content on this platform. There's definitely more frequent content around the corner with this channel. If you guys saw my community tab post, there was some personal stuff and work stuff that sort of slowed me down in January with my upload plans. But behind the scenes, I have a plan of not only how to make better content, more entertaining content, but also more frequent content. And I'm really excited to see how that pays off. Pays off in the sense of like me learning my craft, but also able to help you more regularly. Because I don't think that one video a week or every week and a half is enough. When it comes to growing, is it just a numbers game? More content meaning more traffic? Yes and no. I mean, the more content you make, the more chances you have to drive more content, to get more traffic. I would say in terms of what you're optimizing, it's much more about how quickly you learn. If you turn your like learning brain on, and you iterate a lot, you will see a lot of huge results for sure. If you just crank out a bunch of videos and throw them out onto YouTube and hope to see what sticks, that's totally different. And I would say your chances are improved to grow on YouTube, but not necessarily higher. It's really about, are you having a growth mentality or a learning mindset when you're iterating, that I think makes a huge difference. That being said, you know, for some people, they have all these ideas and then they post once every 2 months. That's not a good way to grow on YouTube, because you're still learning your craft. The data points that you're collecting are so infrequent that the ability for you to improve quickly or to make that turn, figure out those blind spots that are going to unlock so much stuff with your channel, they're too infrequent. So, yeah. I hope that could help. What is better, different playlists on different themes or different channels for different themes? Thank you from India. Super awesome to see you here. I don't have experience doing different channels. The thing I want to, like, I have never seen a YouTube channel where the creator's like, I'm going to make a second channel. Or like, I have 4 different channels. Chances are higher that I didn't like that decision versus I liked that decision. I wish that they could have just like brought those themes together on one platform. But that being said, that doesn't always work. I know someone who talks about language learning and loves talking about movies. So if they didn't want to marry what they were learning from movies to their language learning process, then yes, it probably does make sense to like separate it out or sacrifice one, honestly. Like I can't imagine, I already am pouring so much into this channel and I know how much it takes to make YouTube videos, but also like have work in real life going on. So I can't imagine managing multiple channels. It's just like when people are making like all these different Instagram accounts, I'm like, I can barely post on one Instagram account. How are you doing that with so many? Channel versus playlist. I mean, I don't think people really. Again, this is my like subjective experience, but even from the data that I've looked at from other channels, playlists are helpful when it gets matched with the right person, but and like, yes, you want to give your audience something clickable that's like, I wish I could just see more videos on this. And if you can make that easy for your audience, that's great. But in terms of, are they going to search that out from you so much that they are happy that you built a whole different channel based on that? Gauge that for yourself and your situation. But maybe you just need to figure, I would say more than 50%, it could work to tie those disconnected things together on your one channel. And if you, again, you can make a lot of really random disconnected things work on your channel if you just figure out the through lines, figure out how they're connected, and you can explain that to your audience, then they'll go on the journey with you. It's like if you're having movie reviews and language learning, like you're working with Duolingo and like doing that sort of stuff, those things are very disconnected. But it's also because of choices that you're making that make those things disconnected. If you wanted, you could find a middle ground of like, hey, this is what I think is interesting from movies. These are life questions that I'm thinking. These are life questions that I'm learning from movies that affect my learning process. And behind the scenes, I'm really excited about learning things about language, but it's not really about talking about the physical language. It's about what I'm learning about life from language learning. Sorry, I'm going on a rant, but like, if you can make disconnected things connect. If you just figure out those through lines and can make those through lines clear to your audience, you can make a lot of really random, disjointed things work on your channel. If you could do YouTube full time, would you? Yes. And again, I said yes, like very emphatically, but there's a part of me that really likes juggling a lot of different plates. So I highly doubt that I would just do just YouTube full time. Maybe I would be expanding different parts of the business behind the scenes, or maybe I would still do videography like 10-20% of the time, because videography lets me get into all of these really interesting contexts that teach me a lot about life. For me, it's really more about the freedom to be in the environment, the sandbox that I want. And so that's what I've been investing in a lot behind the scenes, is giving myself more options, more opportunities. And right now, and for the foreseeable future, the direction that I'm very much pulled in is towards doing YouTube more and more and creating more opportunities on YouTube that are where I'm not always trading my time for money in the traditional sense. I think that would be really cool. And also the personal impact component. It's really interesting. Like I used to think that making videos for other businesses would be 100% fulfilling for me, because I get to like play around and make videos while also helping other people with their businesses. But there's a huge difference between making something that's helpful for other people, like making a video that's helpful for a business, versus on YouTube where you're like sharing your own personal story. And that is what, or like it's more personal, like, or more direct to the impact that you're having using YouTube. And I've been really surprised how different that is. So it's definitely something I'm investing in behind the scenes. Thank you guys. Some of you guys have been here for quite a long time. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And if there's any questions I can help you with, let me know in the comments down below. And I will try to catch up with them as best as I can. Maybe what I'll practice with my communication on this live stream is how I can answer questions quickly. More questions, more quantity over quality. I'll try that out. I feel like I need to grow as a creator and sort out bits, like knowing my niche at a good level, knowing my voice and style before growing in any number analytical way. I would guess that that's probably the right fit for you too, Alex. And I think that every creator on this platform, I talk with Audrey about this a lot. I talk with myself a lot. Like, this is like a very common thing with creators or creators who want to do this seriously, is you really have to sometimes pause and take some time to sort out who you are, what you bring to the table, like how you can stand out, what your blind spots are. Like, why is it that this type of video is not as compelling as this person's video? Or like, why does this person have a ton of views? What can I learn from them? Taking the time to be honest with yourself about where you're not good enough, or where you need to wait and get better. I think that those usually are the inflection points that help you succeed long term. It's pausing things in the short term. It's taking steps back in the short term, because you're not suddenly seeing an explosion with your views. But long term, those are the decisions I think that set you up for the most long term success. From Soul, wow, that's so awesome. I'm curious, how do I know if my niche is too niche? I initially started my channel wanting to talk about Korean wholesale fashion, but I'm worried that might be too specific. Thank you so much. Personally, I think the more niche, the better, because if you're the only one in that niche, then that means that you're the only one filling that need, which means that they can only go to you. There's a different... Ethan, you said it way better than I did. There's a difference between editing for others and editing for yourself, and you know the difference for sure. In terms of like, if your niche is too niche, again, I think that that's... I think that thinking about things in terms of a YouTube niche might not be the right fit for you right now. I mean, I think there's a reason that you were drawn to Korean wholesale fashion in the first place, and that's something specific. And if your audience is coming for you for that right now, that's super awesome. I wouldn't like suddenly switch to gardening content. But maybe if you want to create more wiggle room for yourself, building out the YouTube niche hierarchy for yourself. Okay, how am I communicating about Korean wholesale fashion? Like, what locations do I go to? Am I with other groups of people? Do I like interviewing people? Is it more sit down? Am I going out and doing weird challenges? Figuring out more of those layers and how they connect can suddenly, it can be, I haven't thought of a good analogy for this, but basically it's like, you are a person and you're like, there's all these things and interests and delights that you have, and you're sort of like, then you can say, okay, every single time I make my videos about Korean wholesale fashion, it's coming from this place, or it's coming from a thoughtful place, or it's coming from a place of, I want to share these opportunities with people. This comes to, in part 3 of my series, Helping You Rethink Your YouTube Niche, I talk about like, what is fueling your passion? If you can clarify more what is fueling your passion and interest in that, then maybe you can talk about something else that's related to that, but touches on that same fire, that same like electricity, that same spark, and give yourself a little bit more wiggle room to play. So if you had 10 layers, if you clarify basically like what your 10 layers might be for your YouTube channel, then you can say, okay, the most obvious thing that this would lead to would be a channel about Korean wholesale fashion presented in this way. But maybe if I take a step back and look at those 10 layers, here's another option of what that channel could look like. I'm going to make that as well. And then you start seeing more options of what your channel can be, and it'll still be fulfilling those needs, those interests that your audience have, but you'll have thought outside the box a little bit. I hope that was helpful. So I can stick to my topic of interest, but diversify my methods of communication. Yes. And yes, exactly. And I think that as on this platform, I highly recommend trying different methods of communication, because you will start learning, oh, I thought I liked this about this, but it's actually this other component that I like about this. And those like experiments have led to the biggest like mind-blowing or like doors opening with my channel, is when I was willing to switch up how I was communicating. The more I switched up how I communicated, the more I was able to notice the through lines, the things that were consistent. Okay, I'm switching things up like this, and this, but underneath the surface, wow, I am always talking about self-awareness. Wow, I'm always talking about being thoughtful. Wow, I'm always talking about how we can communicate more clearly. Sometimes by switching things up, I was able to see the through lines more clearly. So anyways, basically mix it up, be open to mixing it up, and you'll see a lot of cool different options. Do you feel like you have finally created your own style, or do you still feel like you're working on creating your own style? I think I am way more on my path to making my own style, but I am like way closer. But I don't think I've 100% nailed it. And in February and March, there's going to be a lot of interesting experiments to play around with my methods of communication, to try new options. And I think that it'll really be, I don't think I need to stick necessarily to one unique style, but the more that I'm like, okay, I do video type A, video type B, video type C, video type D, and I know that how they connect, or like the ingredients that are rhythms or like patterns that connect A, B, C, and D, the more that will add up to a unique style. Like Graham Stephan has been doing videos where it's not sit down. Graham Stephan is a personal finance channel. He's been doing videos that are not sitting down in one spot. He's like remodeling his house, or he's talking about his Tesla and stuff, so he's getting outside. But in a weird way, even those other formats still work on his channel. They still feel unique to him. And I think it's much more about how he's so comfortable with his voice, like his creative voice, or like what he brings to the table, because he's like, talk about a guy who makes so much content. Graham Stephan makes bazillions of pieces of content every month. I think he's so comfortable with knowing his voice, and he can flex it in different ways. Yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any final questions, leave them down below. I would love to clarify anything that you've got. As you can see, this is a complicated process. It's so fascinating to me how, yes, it's not really about, I keep saying YouTube niche in these series, and like rethink your YouTube niche, clarify your YouTube niche, but I hope you can see how it's really about finding vision for your channel and having self-awareness to know what you bring to the table, because the more you know your ingredients, the sort of like puzzle pieces of your channel or what you have to offer, the easier it is for you to shuffle those things around or make them more specific or pivot or all these different things. I would say everything is sort of an option with your channel. You can change it up, you can niche it down, you can, do whatever, but it's much more about, do you know yourself well enough to make that shift? Because it takes like a lot of thoughtfulness, or experimentation or practice or patience, all those sorts of things that are connected with vision. It takes a lot of that to make those changes, those pivots gracefully. If it's not too personal, can I ask what your day job used to be? So my day job right now is a freelance videographer. So I make videos for other businesses, and I make ads. I make all sorts of different videos with my own freelance video production company. And that's still what the job is that's paying the bills right now. But over time, as you'll see on this channel, I'm opening up a lot of doors for myself with YouTube and those types of connections. And I'm super excited to see what's going to happen, because I think that it's going to be big. It's going to be a game changer, not just for me, but I think you're getting me on this little wondering rant, but I think it's going to be great. Long story short. I see you working a lot on introspective methods to work on your niche. What role, if any, do you see your outward-looking methods to refine your topics, analytics, or comparing your results to other creators in your area of interest? That's a great question. So yes, it's I've been talking a lot about the whys, figuring out the whys, all that sort of stuff, but you have to be testing against the outside world to make any progress. In terms of analytics, the things that I'm most thinking about right now, and I'm probably going to make a video talking about this, it's how can I increase watch percentage, probably, or watch time. Every single video I make, I work so hard to make the story and structure and hooks, all that sort of stuff, as compelling as I possibly can. I'm obsessive over the pacing and structure and story. So the more that I make these videos, the more that I start noticing, wow, I poured my everything into this 12-minute video, and I poured my everything into this 12-minute video. I thought that they were perfect pacing and structure and storytelling, but when I look at the analytics, I can see how the average person watched 6 minutes of this video, and they watched 7 minutes of this video. And, when we're talking the hundreds of views, that's actually a very big difference. A whole minute different. What was I missing that was different in the flow or communication of that video versus this video? I've been thinking a lot about how I can make my communication and storytelling more compelling for people to watch longer, and not in the sense of how can I get more watch time. It's much more I want to pack so many gold nuggets and helpful stuff into each video. How do I have the skills to communicate that in a way where people stay and hit as many of those gold nuggets as possible? And I think that that's a skill that I will be refining and discovering and learning with for a long time. How do you engage someone for 2 minutes and almost guarantee that they'll be engaged for 2 minutes? How do you guarantee someone being engaged with your content for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, if you were giving a public speaking speech? Those are the types of outward things that I'm testing a lot. I put hooks in my videos, and I know that that's better than having no hooks, but is there a difference when I sprinkle it in the beginning, the middle, and the end, or is it better if I just keep it all at the beginning? And those questions will be so captivating that they'll watch the whole thing. Those are the types of things I'm learning behind the scenes that like are more outward looking, or like more that I'm looking for my analytics. It's really about watch time and how long I can captivate people. That's what I've been practicing. Thank you guys for all the questions. You guys are awesome. Oh, yeah, you're not going to get 100% audience retention. I used to obsess over that one thing, and while it did give me the initial push to be better, I was healthier mentally when I wasn't obsessing. Yes, again, like obsessing, I use that word to demonstrate my passion, but it's not, yeah, I mean, it's a little obsessive, but it's not necessarily negatively bouncing back on me. And I know that 100% audience retention is not possible. But again, in terms of metrics that I am paying attention to, I think that I've found is one of the most foolproof metrics for growing as a communicator, especially if you've given each video your all. There was one video I made recently where I had tons of interesting B-roll in the way that I cut it together. It was sort of documentary-esque, and I thought it flowed really well. But if you looked at the watch time for that specific video, it was dramatically shorter than any other video normally at that length. Like, it was, normally people watch like 5 minutes, 6 minutes of my 5 to 7 minutes, 4 to 7 minutes of my videos. But for that one, it was very comfortably in the 3 minute range. And so that's a very big difference, 3 minutes versus 4 to 7 minutes. And it was interesting to see how that happened with a video that was objectively more cinematic. So those are the types of lessons, and I have an idea of why that video did less well, or like was less engaging. And I don't know. I think that stuff's really helpful to notice, because click-through rate, that could do with your title, that could do with your thumbnail. Like, obviously people are gonna, when I make a series helping people, like rethinking your YouTube niche, or like your YouTube niche probably sucks, like that's gonna get a higher click-through rate. That's gonna get, like, that thumbnail is gonna be better. And that's good to notice if people are interested. But in terms of my skills as a communicator long-term, is that really, it's more confusing to figure out what you can get from that data. Whereas I've found that, like, if you're giving your structure and your story your all every single time, and you can notice, okay, people watched for 5 minutes here, but 7 minutes here, and they're the same length. What happened? Like, I think that's a very interesting data point to look at. Alex, I'm so glad that this stuff was able to help. Yeah. Any ways I can help, I'm super down. What's something fun on your bucket list that you want to accomplish? One for me is visiting every single one of my internet friends. I think that's a great one. That's super cool. And I know we're gonna run into each other in real life, in the not so near future, in the not so distant future. There's certain people that I've run into on this platform that I'm like, we're gonna run into each other in real life. It's just gonna happen. Something on my bucket list. There's a lot of things on my bucket list. I want to for sure speak at a convention. I also want to know what it's like having a personal brand be like, I know that I'm going to listen to myself and my instincts in terms of how to make content that's like authentic to me and helpful and all that stuff. I know that it's going to come from a good place. I'm really curious to see what that will look like. My like drive to share stories or like change the world or whatever. I'm really curious what that will look like when it's more like official, when it's more like, this is my personal brand, this is how I know how to make money with it as well. I know that it can impact these people. I know how to reach people in these ways. When it has that more like, I know that is in the future for me, and I'm really curious to see what that's going to look like. The way you talk about this topic has given me so much needed clarity. I'm just starting out, and I'm going to work on incorporating these insights into my videos. That makes me so happy. So happy to hear. Thank you for writing that. That really helped. is really nice to hear. TikTok. Will I be on TikTok? Gary Vee speaks intensively about this. I watch a lot of TikTok, and I love TikTok as a platform, and I'm actually skeptical right now about Byte, but right now I'm just focusing on YouTube because I know my own personal boundaries and bandwidth. But in terms of if I could do what I wanted to do and had infinite amount of time, I would definitely, like, the only other thing I would be focusing on would be making some content, maybe that's similar or maybe a little different on TikTok, because in terms of the land grab, the opportunity that's there, I think that TikTok totally has it. Instagram does not have it. Twitter, it's like, okay, but like TikTok, insane, and it's going to expand to content that has nothing to do with like dance videos or even for young people. I'm with Gary Vee in saying like it's going to turn into something more like Instagram in the next couple years. There's too much interesting stuff going on with that platform and the community building there and the innovation there for it to not have some legs, in my opinion. Just get on the less than famous panel at VidCon. That's another one on my bucket list. What's a good first video for a lifestyle niche? Feeling stuck. If you think TikTok is insane, Byte is crazier regarding organic traffic. It is, but it's like, I need to explore Byte more, but I haven't seen as much like viewer traffic fed to you as easily as on TikTok, but maybe I'm wrong. I've seen a lot of the like top, bites, and they have like 1,000, 10,000 likes or something like that. Whereas, on TikTok, that could get to 1 million, like a couple million. That's a pretty big difference. But yeah, I mean, like, what's cool about TikTok is like, even if you do badly, like at the very least, they push your videos to at least, at least 100 people. And those people might only be seeing you for a couple seconds, but it's almost guaranteed that if you post on TikTok, you're going to get a couple hundred views. That's insane. That's insane. And honestly, they'll push you more if you can sustain an audience and get those clicks, get that watch time in those couple seconds, in those like first 100 views. It's this really cool like litmus test if you're able to be engaging in a quick way. Facebook used to be for the kids, now it's filled with old people. Yes, Byte is literally Vine too. I can tell there's some Gary Vee enthusiasts in the crowd. We're all on the same page here. What's a good first video for a lifestyle niche? Lifestyle niche, super broad. But like, are you someone who likes going outside and connecting with other people, having other experiences? Are you someone who likes sharing their thoughts in their room? Try out those things, and I think that you will be, I think that you'll find the clarity you want. I think whenever, I made a video a long time ago about like, if you're feeling stuck, giving yourself creative distractions. What I mean by creative distractions is the more that you do, the more that you practice, the more that you iterate, even though it feels uncomfortable to do so, the more you'll be distracted from that voice of like, oh, I'm not good enough. Is that, should I do this? Should I do this? The more you give yourself creative distractions, the the easier it'll be for you to make content or to think of ideas for your content. A lot of times what slows us down is that voice that tells us that we're not good enough. But the more evidence we have to throw in the face of that voice, the better. So instead of it being like, are you good enough? Are you good enough? Are you good enough? And you're like obsessing, wringing your hands like, oh, I don't know if this is the right idea, if this is the right idea. And then you don't post for 2 months. Okay, well, compare that to, I'm still feeling nervous, I'm still feeling anxious, I'm still feeling self-conscious about my content because I'm a human being and I have real feelings. But if you're making a video every single week, then when that voice comes up for you, to get you, you can just say, what are you talking about? You can tell that negative or scared voice inside of you, no, I have evidence right here of like the last 5 videos I did, and it was one every single week. You have evidence to throw in the face of that creative distractions so that you can listen to that voice less and less and less over time. I think I'm going to wrap this up soon. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and your discussion. I'm going to stay for like 2-3 more minutes. Read the comments, but yeah, you guys are awesome. I'm going to be live streaming again, I think, at 7:30 on Tuesday. 7:30 PST on Tuesday. So if you think about more questions for your niche and want them clarified or broken down, and you can be as specific as you want, as long as I don't ramble too much, I will try to tackle every single thing that you've got. So yeah, think on that for the next couple days, and then we can get right on those questions right away. So let's recap where we're at. My family is not allowing me to have a YouTube channel, and it's my lifelong wish. Well, there is a lot more going on there than, you know, this 20-word comment. I would love to hear more about your situation and maybe some other options. Maybe message me on Instagram at EricWenVlogs. It's very interesting. Content that TikTok pushes out to you. I've gained 1,000 followers in a month on TikTok and have a video that is currently at 50K views and counting. Yep. TikTok. There's a lot. There's a lot there. And honestly, Q, you have a lot of the type of content that would convert really well onto, from TikTok to YouTube. Sorry, I'm getting a little drained. Am I going to have super chat enabled soon? I think I need to be monetized for that to happen. So that's, you know, the 4,000 watch hours. I've done the math, and I think that I'm at, I've done the math, and I think it was something like once I get about, so at the time, December 31st, I did the math and I theorized that it's about 30,000 more views for me to get monetized. And so that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen soon. And I sort of have ideas of how that's gonna happen. So yeah, soon. Am I going to have super chat enabled soon? Yes. Glad to help. Yeah, super awesome. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to bed, but it was nice to talk to you in this community. Hope everyone has a great day. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for everything. You are the change maker of your own life. I'm excited to connect with you and help you however you can. A lot of times it just takes bouncing off your ideas and your experiences and your questions against someone else who knows what you're going through or might have some ideas of how you can wiggle your way out of that puzzle, out of that funk, out of that, you know, whatever. And so if I can be a resource for that, super awesome. But what's another level of awesome would be if you were able to connect with other creators that you can bounce those same questions and passions off of. Because, yeah, we all learn way slower if we are doing this alone. And there's people out there that have the answers that you're looking for, the tools that you're looking for. You just need to get out there and bump into them. So be more bold, make more content so that you bump into more people, and you find more of those people that can unlock things for you or unlock the hidden potential in you, that I'm all about that. I'm all about that. So thank you guys for everything. See you guys on Tuesday. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye.